Hey, Brian.
Hey, Elliot.
What's the talk of the table?
Today, we are joined by Cassi Mothwin. Cassi is a tabletop game designer known for such titles as Tangled Blessings, the indie groundbreaker award-winning The Sticker Game, and the recently crowdfunded Carved by the Garden, just to name but a few. Cassi Mothwin, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's going great,
Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, can't wait to get started.
We've done it. We're in it.
We've done it. We're there. We started. Ready, set, go.
Yeah.
So Cassi, we really wanted to have you on the show because I first sort of discovered your work, came across you as a person in the space because we were fellow Zine Month crowdfunders. We were both crowdfunding in February.
We're graduates.
We're alums. Yeah, we're part of the
Zine
club.
Month 2023, baby.
Yeah.
Was that your first Zine Month?
It was my second Zine Month, but first one was very low key. I did a much smaller game. But you did a very cool game for this Zine Month called Tangled Blessings. So I think we should start there. Can you tell for people who don't know broadly, what is Tangled Blessings?
So Tangled Blessings is my magical school horror role-playing game that is designed for 1 or 2 players. It's GM-less. It uses tarot cards, and it's made for adults. Like what's the content in it? I mean, you can totally be a child or teenager going to school, but I thought, I was like, I want to be at a graduate magical school, so that's the content. It's based on Anamnesis by Sam Lee, and if you haven't played Anamnesis, you can also do that with multiple players, GM-less, and also it's an amazing game, so please go check it out because Sam is amazing, and Sam also helped Elliot with the latest release that Elliot had, so just go, Sam.
We love
everyone
Sam
give it up
Lee
for
here.
Sam.
Big friend of the pod, Sam Lee. Shout out.
Huge friend of the pod.
Yeah, so that's the game, and I wasn't planning on writing it, but Sam hosted a jam, it's called an itch jam, where people will just like get in sort of a frenzy of writing, creating games, and Sam gave us like 2 months, and I was like, I kind of been thinking about writing a magical school game, and maybe there's an Anamnesis game in me somewhere, and turns out when you start thinking about, oh, what if we did 4 years of school? Wait, that matches up with how Sam has Anamnesis laid out, and then it just really matched up with the system, what I was going for, and the timing of the jam worked out. And then Sam was like, I might try to crowdfund my game that I'm writing for the jam. And I was like, oh, maybe it's time for me to finally venture into the crowdfunding space, because before that, everything I had done had been digital. I was too scared and nervous to actually get anything printed. I had a print on demand product, but it was so much work that I was like, I don't know if I can handle doing, like, turned out to be fine, and it was a lot of fun, but it was extremely stressful. But that's how I got there, was I was just like, I'm just gonna follow Sam because they're amazing.
Truly.
And you know, if anyone's been listening to this podcast or My First Dungeon, they might think that I've like been a solo TTRPG stan for a very long time. And that's like this is a relatively new thing for me. I feel like start of this year, I was very much of the mindset that I now lambast against, where I saw like the word solo and I was kind of like, you know, it's cool, it's interesting, but it's not for me. And the reason that I got into them was first Sam Lee's Anamnesis, because we wanted to do a season of that for My First Dungeon. So I kind of read through that. I listened to the Planet Arcana playthrough of it. And because of that Planet Arcana playthrough, and because we featured a bunch of Zine Month games in our newsletter, the 20-sided newsletter, I recognized the name Tangled Blessings. I was like, I'd read about it. I was like, okay, this looks cool. And then I saw Planet Arcana do a playthrough. And I was like, oh, I loved the Planet Arcana Anamnesis. I'm listening to Planet Arcana Tangled Blessings. And it blew my mind. Like, I remember exactly where I was walking near Union Square when like certain moments happened. And that was kind of like my path to finding your games. And the second I cracked that egg, I was like, oh, what else is Cassi making? Let me check out all these things. These are great.
Well, thanks. But yeah, no, also shout out Planet Arcana. I know Jay's probably a friend of the pod as well. But
Absolutely.
Yes, Planet Arcana did an incredible playthrough of Tangled Blessings.
Amazing. And the Planet Arcana playthrough really highlights this aspect of Tangled Blessings I want to dig in on, which is the way that you know, obviously this is based on Anamnesis, but you broke the mold a little bit with this introduction of the rival. And I want to kind of hear maybe what the motivation behind the rival was and how you cracked that design aspect?
Sure. So one of the things that I was going for was I was looking for look, everything I do is self-indulgent because it has to be. I wanted more dark academia books, and what I mean by that is books about people in their 20s or 30s that were going to school, that were studying, that were drinking coffee or tea in the library and burning candles and like having adult conversations, not teenagers. I don't know. I was just like, I was tired of the teenage, but also I wasn't finding any books that fit that. So I was like, what if I created a game where people could make these stories for me that I could indulge in? By the way, people have sent me their playthroughs of Tangled Blessings, and I've just like devoured every one of them. So mission accomplished.
Hell yeah.
But one of the common tropes that I love in the dark academia genre is the idea of the rival. And you see the rival in almost every school story. Sometimes it's a bully. Sometimes it's a romantic interest. Sometimes it's a best friend. Growing up, one of my favorite books was called The Great and Terrible Beauty. It is set at a boarding school, and it's about 4 girls and them growing up at this boarding school, and there's magic involved, and they are rivals of each other. And I couldn't necessarily do a 4-player situation, but Anamnesis, one of the functions and mechanics of that game is quote-unquote remembering your shadow. So it's a game where you don't have your memory and you recall who you are and what made you who you are and where you ended up as you play the game. And at the beginning of the game, you draw a card that represents your shadow. And as I went into developing Tangled Blessings, I was curious about how I would bring that piece of anamnesis into Tangled Blessings, because I thought it was such a cool mechanic. Because as you play, you're supposed to reference the shadow to help give life to your memories. And I thought, that's so cool, but I don't want to just be like, remember your shadow in Tangled Blessings, because it's not as interesting. I wanted it to fit the setting a little bit. And I was like, wait, I have this. I remember sitting up in bed. I had already been telling my husband a little bit about this project. I was like, oh my God, the shadow's going to be the rival. But he didn't play Anamnesis, so he had no idea what I was talking about. So I just out of nowhere, at like 11:30 at night, I just sit up. The shadow will be the rival. And I'm looking at him with like these frenzied eyes. Like, I've got to write this down. And it worked. It just worked really well. And I think that's one of the things that draws people to it, because there's so much you can do with the rival. You can make the rival. A lot of people are drawn to the romantic interest aspect of it, but also can be a sibling, can be a best friend, a cousin, or just you can bully each other, which who doesn't love the license to bully your friend for fun?
I really love the visual of you sitting up in bed, running to a manual typewriter and just typing Shining style, the shadow is the rival, the shadow is the rival, the shadow is the rival.
That's a lot more interesting than grabbing my phone and then the notes app.
It's honestly somehow creepier if you would just kept doing it in the notes app and your husband just like looks over and sees like pages of just the shadow is the rival with no punctuation. So one of the things we've been talking about a lot on this show, and specifically recently because of our Project Echo season, we love solo games, but we want more people to kind of get involved in them. And we love the idea and kind of like the messaging that solo doesn't necessarily mean alone, and taking something like Anamnesis and making it a 2-player game, because it kind of already had all the bones of a 2-player game in it, is really exciting to us and fun. And I know, Elliot, I've mentioned this before, that you had a couple of friends who reached out to you and said they like got Project Echo, which is, a classic solo game, and we're going to play it with a group of people. Mm-hmm. I'm curious about your thoughts on where solo games are kind of going, because we've definitely seen them tick up a lot. And like, I feel like every Kickstarter we've looked at, we saw this in Eat the Reich and in, was it Vesson?
Vesson just released solo rules, yeah.
Where people are releasing solo rules, or people who are supporting them are asking for solo rules. And I'm wondering kind of what your thoughts are on why this is happening, and where it's going.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions. I do want to state in the upfront, though, that I'm also pretty new to this space. I didn't play my first solo game until December 2021, and that was the Sealed Library, which is a Wretched and Alone game. And that's what broke my brain, and it was like, oh, this is what solo games can be. They're not just Dungeons and Dragons by yourself. This is like a whole experience. And so that's where I was like, oh my God, my life has changed forever. There was before the Sealed Library and there's after the Sealed Library. And I think a lot of people have had a similar experience when it comes to solo games. The first one you play is always going to be like this little special nugget. Anyway, I think with the pandemic, we saw an explosion of solo games because people couldn't play together. And I think we're also seeing that people are still struggling to come together. And in an increasingly online world, I don't always want to sit at my computer. And it's easier to play solo games away from my computer. I don't have to when I bring up the computer, I mean playing RPG games in Foundry or Roll20. You know, I already sit at my computer all day for work, and then to go into another 3-hour RPG game at my computer, it's just not ideal. So sometimes having that RPG experience where I can just go to the library or the cafe and just have a little moment to myself, it's amazing. In terms of where do I see them going, I think they're just going to continue to grow. They're not new by any means. They have quite a varied history. I know there was someone who was putting together a history of solo RPGs. I was actually just looking up the history of them myself, and I don't know if they ever finished their article, but they had traced them back to the 80s and 70s. There had already been a pretty good tale. So I think we're seeing what I would call a resurgence. And I think the more technology supports it, the further we're going to get. But also there's that line of when does it become a video game?
Sure.
So it's how much should this app help me versus how much is this just a visual novel at that point? And I mean, that's something I've kind of been playing around with in my head as well. There's just a lot of overlap. I don't think it necessarily matters, but it is just something to think about. But in terms of where do we see them going? I think we're just going to continue to see more because they're easier to make than group games. You don't have to play test as much because, I mean, you just don't. If you're making your game for a select group of people, and if they don't like it, they don't like it, you know? Whereas when you're making it for a group of people to play, I feel like you have to play test a little bit more because you have to understand how the rules work together and how people interpret those rules in a group setting. But I just feel like it's easier to make a solo RPG, just like it's easier to write a novel than it is to probably create a movie, because you need so many more people for a movie than you necessarily do to create a novel. That's a lot of rambling to say. I think the door is wide open.
I love that you brought up the history, because I feel like when I think to explaining making a solo game or explaining a solo game to family members who are maybe a little older and they know D&D, they don't really know the TTRPG space at all, but what the connection that gets people is choose your own adventure books.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
They're oh, I get this. This is like those old choose your, and it's yeah, it is. It's like choose your own adventure, except instead of flipping to that page, you get to that page and it's a question that you're responding to. You know, you're creating a good portion of the story and making it your own. So yeah, I think I love that. I would love to read a detailed history. I hope whoever's working on that picks it back up.
I've never thought of that comparison of solo games being a boundless choose your own adventure in the same way that D&D is a boundless video game.
You should look at the Cthulhu solo rules. Even if you're not interested in Cthulhu, theirs are extremely close to choose your own adventure. You make an actual Call of Cthulhu character. You use the character sheet. They have a bunch of free ones you can look at. And then depending on your role, whenever you make a test, you turn to a certain page and you read the outcome, and that's how you move through the story. They have really good reviews as well. People really enjoy them.
The closest thing that I got to with solo games before I kind of dove into Anamnesis and now a bunch of others is I was really into, for a brief time a couple years ago, text adventure games, old school Zork and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where you'd you know, what do? I pick up the sword, I turn left, that type of thing. And there's actually a great, man, I haven't played it in a while. I'm glad we talked about this because it reminded me how much I like this game. There's a TTRPG-esque kind of thing called Parsley that is essentially just a text game, but written as a book. So it's just, it's got a bunch of maps and then questions that you ask your players. And it's just, what do? I turn left. I grab the fishing pole. I put the fishing pole in my pocket or something.
All right, send me a link.
Fun.
I need to
That's
look
a
at
very
Parsley
cool
is very
book.
cool.
Yeah.
There's also,
Please.
there's a bunch of adventures in it that are longer and they're actually fun to play with a group. But there's one in there that it's 4 pages long. And the whole bit of it is that there's a goat that's on fire on a subway platform. And
Yes.
there's like 5
Please send
questions.
me the book.
Oh, it's very fun.
I need this right now.
It's great. We'll put the link in the description. We'll send you the link as well.
Great. Yeah, I got to take a look at this. That sounds amazing.
The other thing I love that you said, Cassie, was talking about this question of like technology involvement and like pushing the boundaries between video game. I mean, like VTTs, like virtual tabletops to a certain extent, start to push that boundary. We see a lot with things like Tailspire, I think, is like the real 3D one. But one of the big things we wanted to talk to you about today was I think you're doing something really innovative and interesting with bringing technology into solo gaming with the sticker game, which is an audio-driven game. Can you talk to us about what the sticker game is?
Yeah, I feel like I should say in the upfront, it's not really a game. I didn't know that when I named it. There's really no mechanics to it. There's no losing or winning, so I feel awkward calling it a game nowadays. But in the moment, it felt right. I didn't really know what else to call it. But today, I call it an audio drama narrative journaling experience. It sure rolls off the tongue really well.
It's going to catch on for sure.
So you don't have a character sheet or anything like that, but you are role-playing, so I hesitate to take away the role-playing aspect of it, but it is an audio experience, to put it succinctly, I guess. It has 42 tracks, and you are a researcher. You've been tasked with using your sticker collection. This game was created for people like me who buy a bunch of stickers or find themselves with a bunch of stickers and never have the courage to put them anywhere. So you have been tasked with using your stickers to influence another universe. And whatever stickers you use are what influence this universe in a weird way. So it's been successful in the sense that, I mean, it did win an award and it's been nominated for several awards at WebFest and as a selection at WebFest. And I know on the surface it's like, this doesn't sound very, I mean, you use your stickers. Why couldn't that just be in a journal? And that's one of the reasons I decided to go audio, because I felt like if I just made it into a journal, it would just be an activity book and people wouldn't feel as geared up to participate in the experience. I wanted it to feel like someone is telling you to put your sticker here, because if you don't, the version of you in this other universe could potentially die. So it feels a little bit more real, I think, and that's why I wanted it to be audio. I wanted it to be like there is the GM there, but also I just didn't think an activity book would nail the theme I was going for. It's so hard to explain without giving away what makes it so magical, which means it doesn't sell well, but I promise it's magical.
It sounds, I mean, everything you're describing sounds like the word game fits. I mean, based on
there is
the breadth of tabletop.
A game over track. So we thought about having a bunch of different tracks you could go to, like different choices you could make. And if you make a choice here, like you'll play this track or you'll play this track. And it got really complicated really fast. So we only have one track, and it's if you just can't get yourself to put 3 stickers down. After that, you have to play the game over track, which is just like, wow, you really couldn't use your stickers? Good work. So that's the only losing aspect of it. But otherwise, there's a role-playing aspect to it, and it's very cool. You can play some audio from it if you want to for your podcast.
Oh yeah, right here.
Affix, you can't be serious. Are you sure you don't have a single sticker somewhere in your massive supply that you could use? Not even one?
Well, and I think I know you count the Stanley Parable amongst inspirations, which I feel like is a great way for people to get the vibe of why it being an audio product is so important.
Exactly. It's that narrator piece was really important for us to be a part of it. I say us because my husband was the voice actor for most of the project, and he also did help with some of the developmental writing of it. And we really wanted that sort of character to be in the game. And I knew that wouldn't come across if we did it through a book, which some people are so good at having a really great, strong voice in their tabletop RPGs. I just felt like text wasn't going to be the best way to deliver this. That said, we do have the text version if you just want to read all the whole script. Like that comes with the game. But you miss out on all the fun of the audio editing that I spent months doing.
I do really love the intentionality of looking at a game and being like, this is the easier medium to do, of doing it as a workbook, but it's not the correct medium. And like taking that extra step of being like, no, what this needs is to be an audio thing. And I think that's, we were talking with Jay Stroutman the other day about like innovation and stuff and why we love Planet Arcana and what they're doing, because they're coming to things with such an intentionality in the same way that you are, like coming to things with an intentionality and with an idea and with like the audience in mind in a way that like immediately elevates everything that you're putting out. I don't have a question. I just want to applaud that, I guess.
Was Jay also frustrated with themselves because they just couldn't stop? They're just like, nope, now that I know it has to be this way, I can't do it any other way.
Oh, that's... I feel that
the
on
creator
a daily
curse.
basis.
If they didn't say it explicitly, I think it was what we were all feeling as we were talking about this.
Yeah, because you hear something that you just know, or you hear something, you see something, and you just know it's wrong. You don't quite know why, but you know it's wrong, and you know you have to do it better or right, and you're never going to get that out of your head.
Yeah.
Yep.
I often wish I had the freedom to half-ass, or like the freedom to let small things go.
I wish I had the power.
It is funny that every now and then I'll send like Elliot or Abby or Chinook an audio file, and I'll be like, hey, can you just like listen to the last like 20 minutes of this? Because I really started to just half-ass it. And every time they're like, what do you mean? I'm just like,
yeah, it's true.
I don't know.
That's it's also good to have somebody to check that voice, because it can be too aggressive, the check yourself voice. I think related to this is the idea of how you put together this physical edition, which is this cool little
so cool
video game style case with a little USB stick in it. I think is so cool and interesting, and it's a physical edition I haven't seen in any other TTRPG. So I don't know that I have a question here. I just want to say how cool I think it is, and how it feels, again, like it's really specific to this game.
I hope it sells well.
That is because we haven't seen it anywhere else. That means you don't necessarily have like guidelines on how to do it. How did you even so you had this idea, you thought, hey, that's a cool idea. And what most people do when they have a cool idea like that, they realize how much work it's going to be, and they go, you know what, I'll just do it this way instead. How did you get from cool idea, have to do it, and then deliver it? Because there wasn't necessarily a track for you that you could follow from other TTRPG designers.
So is your question about how did I make the physical edition, or how did I make the sticker game?
I think how you made the physical edition specifically, but I honestly both.
How did I make the sticker game? A lot of pain and tears. How did I make the physical edition? So I did not have loosely had the idea to make a physical edition. It was like, all right, I should make a physical edition. I should make a sticker book or a sticker sheet, and then just put a download code on the sticker sheet. Bam, physical edition. Then I got approached by a local art group in St. Louis, which is where I currently live. I applied to be a vendor at their expo that they have every October, and they decided to select me as a special guest artist. Yay!
Oh, amazing. Congrats.
Yeah. So in that selection, I am doing a presentation or something that has to do with my art, and I pitched them. I was like, what if we just played the sticker game? It's an audio game. We play it over the speakers, and people show up, bring their sticker collection maybe before we start the game. We bring some address labels or something, and people can also create their own stickers to play the game with. And they were like, yeah, we love that. You also should sell the sticker game there. And I was like, okay, yeah, sticker sheets with the code on them. And it felt like it wasn't right. It felt like it didn't fit the event. This is, I'm a special select guest artist, yada, yada, all this nice stuff. And I was like, here's my sticker sheet with an itch.io code. I just don't know if these people are going to know how itch.io works. So,
that's fair.
It's, or drive-through RPG. And I just felt like, oh gosh, that's just asking a lot of people who don't know how to navigate that space, because they don't. Itch.io is so complicated for people who don't have any idea how the site works. So I was like, all right, I've got to figure out a new approach to this. And I went through so many iterations of what I was going to do. I was like, do I get just they do these cool credit card USB drives. I don't know if you've seen those
yeah, sure.
Google does them sometimes, and they'll like put like a software on the USB, you know, it's branded and whatnot. But that was going to be like $5 a card, and I was like, that's not interesting. Like, just handing people a card that says a sticker game isn't very interesting. I was like, I want this to be, I'm going to have to charge a lot for it just to help cover the cost of it. So this was going to be like a $5 card, and then I found, I can buy a case that comes with USBs for the same price, and if I get that, I can also put the booklet that I made for the game inside of it. I can put a I Survived the Sticker Game sticker inside of it. And I also ordered sticker sheets that I drew, and those can go inside of it as well. So it can be a whole little package versus just being a USB drive. I was like, I feel bad just charging people for a USB drive, but I just know they're not going to know how the itch.io code works. So that's how I ended up with the case. I love how it turned out. I worked with a local printer to get the cover and the booklet that goes inside of it printed. I went a couple different ways on how I wanted it to be designed. Part of me wanted to do like, the game itself is set as though you're getting sent a care package from the agency, and you have to follow the instructions within this care package to then work with the guide to actually play the codename sticker game. And I thought about dressing it up like that, and in the end, I just felt like it didn't quite fit the vibe of what I wanted people, if they just glanced at it, to take away from the game. So I went with the look we see. But I'm really happy with how it came out. I think it looks great, and I think it's gonna it'll sell better at conventions, to be completely honest.
Oh, 100%.
Well, it looks like something now that you can put on the shelf. You know what I mean? That's what that case gives it. It gives it that shelf presence.
I have to say, shout out to Matt Sanders, who wrote the sealed library, because he's the one who pushed me. I was like, I don't really know. Should I do a physical edition? And he was like, yes. People will buy they'll buy a USB of your game. So, and that was at Gen Con, so shout out.
It is now such a luxury item, or like a high quality, like you put it on your shelf. It's not just like a thing that's sitting on your shelf and you forget what USB it is. It's like sitting there right next to your video games and next to your TTRPG books. It's very cool.
Yeah, I like that it's something you can put on yourself. It's not something that's going to like slip away in between your books necessarily. It has like a spine, you know? So yeah, I'm glad you guys like it. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. We do have to hand stuff everyone is hand put together. The labels put on the USB. We're sliding the files over. So it is a very manual process, but
there is something with that I feel like anyone who picks up a tabletop role-playing game, or picks up, an actual play podcast, or picks up really any type of media with which they're meant to interact, there is such an activation energy to doing anything new, like picking up a new show, picking up a new book, picking up a new actual play show, playing a new game, especially. So many people are stuck on just playing D&D. And when they can pick up a thing and immediately see there's so much work putting into this, this was done intentionally, this was done with me in mind, look at how cool this thing is, I've never seen anything like this, what is this? Immediately you're over 99% of that activation home, because the second you open that book or that game or that TV show, you're going to be taken care of. And that's the hardest thing to do and the easiest thing to overlook, because it's not the thing you want to make necessarily, but it's the most important part. It is like we put so much work into the covers of books. We kind of want people to judge them by their covers sometimes.
Yeah. Creators don't want to talk about how we have to hold hands of our audience to get them to engage with our stuff, but you do. I mean, if you don't want to, you don't have to, but don't complain about sales later if you didn't.
Yeah, right.
You have to onboard people. It's such an important phase.
You have to guide people. You have to show them it's easy and it's okay. It's the reason why every video game has like that first level that's super easy that just teaches you how to use all the buttons. Like, you need that onboarding process.
Even the sticker game has a tutorial level.
Love it. Love a tutorial level.
I have to say that I feel you so much on the stuffing and stuff yourself, because the biggest mistake, though I'm happy I did it with Project Echo, was making it a multi-piece game, because then that meant getting all the pieces shipped to me and, gluing bookmarks into the back of the book and wrapping everything up in red twine. Yeah, I'm very eager to make a book that's just a book next, maybe before getting into a multi-part thing, as much as I did love that in the end. But
yeah, I did candle boxes for Tangled Blessings.
Yes, you did. You did special edition, these really cool boxes. Yes.
40 was too many. I will say that.
40? Oh, I was like, maybe she did like 10. 40 is a lot. Yeah.
It was a lot.
Good on you.
It was 2 weeks of stuffing. Anyway, that's so I know we're going to talk about Carved by the Garden, which was my next project, and I was like, no special edition box.
No, this one's just a book.
Okay, wait. I got to know, though, because sometime in that process, you probably had that itch in the back of your head that's like, ooh, here's the fun idea for Carved by the Garden. What was the idea that you decided, no, don't do it. Don't do it.
I did it.
Oh, you did it? What was it?
I kept it simple, though. I did Jenga blocks, wood carved Jenga blocks.
Oh, yes.
So I think I only had 7 people. I priced them really high because I was like, I don't really want to do this, but if people are willing to spend the money, I will. Because it was more so like, I don't want to do this for as little as I made on the candle boxes, because it was just so much time. And not that like making money is my goal, but that it was to help fund the project. So it's like, if I'm going to do this, it has to really help fund the project.
Yeah.
So I'm doing, and I'm still figuring out all the specifics of like getting the sized box order, but people could order them in 3s, Jenga blocks they'll all be unique, and they're all wood burn, and they come with one unique prompt that isn't in the actual game. And then I also did a full Jenga tower, which did sell. So I'm going to be wood burning a whole Jenga tower.
That bastard who bought it.
First backer.
First backer? That's excellent.
I'm excited to do it. It'll be fun. It paid for the wood carving kit. Like, I was using a very base craft one, and I priced the big Jenga tower enough to where I could afford an actual wood burning kit. So I'm like, great, thank you. This has funded everything I wanted and more.
Yeah, and that person will treasure that tower.
Oh, I hope so.
That's true. There is something very fun about doing those, like, deeply personal, like, personalized things for people who you know are going to, like, super enjoy your game.
Midnight Muscadines is a cozy, dark, tabletop role-playing game where light and shadow intertwine in a fractured world. Players take on the roles of Marmoteers, brave adventurers who journey into the untamed Wildernight to collect the elusive Midnight Muscadines, craft magical jams, and protect the fragile light of Nim. Through collaborative storytelling and resourceful gameplay, players weave tales of courage, community, and the pursuit of balance. Will you preserve the light, uncover the truths hidden in the shadows, or reshape the balance of the world forever? Midnight Muscadines is perfect for fans of Studio Ghibli and Sea of Stars who seek to capture the magic of exploration and the heartfelt adventure in a world where small heroes make a big impact. Play Midnight Muscadines as a traditional GM'd game, GMless, or even solo. Midnight Muscadines is crowdfunding now on BackerKit. Join the campaign at pandeongames.com/muscadines.
I'm Quinns of tabletop role-playing game review show Quinn's Quest, and this is Play to Find Out. Play to Find Out is an actual play podcast that brings notorious old games from the 80s and 90s back to the table. Each season of Play to Find Out, I'm joined by Emily Johnson and Rob Morgan.
Good? Nervous?
Yeah.
You both looked at each other really concerned, like you think what's about to happen is going to be unpleasant. And frankly, I think that's rude.
And together, we explore the TTRPGs of ages gone by. Our goal? To separate the TTRPGs that deserve to be remembered from those that maybe don't. I don't know, Emily. It was the 80s. A lot of people were on cocaine. We blow the dust from decrepit systems to learn how they work. Your 100 on the encounter table bursts out. Right, you've encountered a bug. Get ready. Don't laugh.
There's one get ready for a fog.
Don't laugh. Encounter their unique quirks.
I do finger guns to cover up how I wince.
A weird thing happens as you do finger guns.
Oh no.
And I'm hoping that the Quinn's Quest community will join us in exploring these games too. If you this up, cannot describe to you how much your adventure ends here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because the best way to learn is to play to find out. Play to Find Out is available now on the Quinn's Quest Patreon, but the first episode of each series streams for free on the Quinn's Quest YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts.
Anyway, you failed the Earth Tech roll, and you made jokes while I was doing my exposition, so you don't get to hear any more.
No. Come on.
I was shook.
The other thing I want to pull out of this sticker game physical edition story you told is engaging with this local art community that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. And I'm reminded of, again, to mention Sam Lee once more, Sam has this upcoming collaboration with a ballet in New York City. And I think it's so interesting, the ways that now, you're the second version of, a TTRPG person collaborating with a different medium. I don't know if there's any more you want to say about that, kind of why you decided to reach out in that way, or did you think it would be to connect on a TTRPG level, or were you reaching out as a visual artist?
I was reaching out to, they have a convention, and I was like, I did the art I do the illustrations for a lot of my stuff, and I do the layout. So I was like, I feel like I could fit in at their convention. And when they said that I was a selected artist, I was like, "Are you sure? Do you know what this is? Do you know what I do?" And it turns out the president is actually an editor for tabletop RPG books. So they were really excited that there was not only, because this is a national convention that we just have in St. Louis. So not only were they excited that I was a tabletop RPG person, they were excited I was a local tabletop RPG person, because they're like, we just don't see that kind of representation. So as much as I would like to say that I reached out to them because I'm courageous and I want to see the medium grow, and the only way it will grow is if we bend the genre and work with others who are in other spaces. Well, I believe that they reached out to me, and I thank them for that. Yeah.
Still, I mean, it's very cool to see, and I think it is a good lesson for people of you might find collaboration with your TTRPG design work in unexpected places. I mean,
the Die comic book.
Absolutely
made into an incredible tabletop RPG. So yeah, I think don't be afraid to reach out. And I think his last, as you probably noticed, I'm very bad with names. But Tyler of Possible Worlds will say to reach out to comic book artists to illustrate your work. Don't just stick it in the tabletop RPG space, because they have a lot to offer and perspectives to provide that you're just not going to find unless you reach out. And I think other people will say that across industries, don't just work within your industry, work with people outside of your industry, because the perspective you will gain is priceless.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about your actual play of The Wretched. I know this has been nominated for a bunch of awards at various web fests, along with us at New Jersey Web Fest, Minnesota, New Zealand? Or New Zealand was the sticker game. The sticker game
made in New Zealand. The New Zealand Web Fest didn't have a spot for video APs when I looked.
You got too many award-nominated and or winning projects for us to keep track. So we're just, if you look it up, it's probably there from Cassi Mothwin.
I have to keep telling myself, hey, next year there won't be this. So be ready to just have a quiet year. There won't be as many awards.
I bet not. I just heard about a full wood-burned Jenga tower that might say otherwise.
So our most recent season of My First Dungeon, as of the recording of this, was our Project Echo season, so Elliot's solo game. And we ended up playing it as a kind of collaborative experience. So Abby Hepworth was kind of the main player, and then Elliot and I were kind of support players. Abby would essentially play and do all the roles and draw the cards and things. And then anytime it was a scene where there were additional people, we'd jump in. And through doing that and through doing our Anamnesis season, we've loved bringing solo games to actual play, and then seeing that come from your Wretched playthrough on video, and then seeing Planet Arcana do theirs, and seeing one or two other people who are really elevating this specific art form in this specific genre has been very cool. I guess my question is, what prompted you to try to do a Wretched actual play? And I kind of want to ask the question, why did it go so hard? But I think I'm realizing it's just always the itch in the back of your head, and you're always going to say yes to it.
Yeah, it's so annoying. If I have an idea and I see even the slightest way that it could be possible, I can't not follow through. It's so annoying because it happens when I'm really busy with other stuff. So The Wretched, I had played the Sealed Library, which is a Wretched and Alone system. So it's based on the Wretched, the Wretched has spawned a system called the Wretched and Alone system. It's a great system if you like feeling sad and pathetic like me for pretend. Anyway, I knew I'm very good at doing dramatic roles without making it seem cheesy because I'm a forever GM by choice. I just really enjoy running games, and I enjoy running very dramatic games where my players may or may not cry. They are okay with this, but I know I'm very good at it. So I've had like years of practice. I went to state for dramatic interpretation in high school. Like, not to toot my own horn, but I've got a little bit of experience.
Toot away.
So I knew I could bring something in the acting space to the field. But I had very little streaming experience at this point. I had only been streaming for 3 months. I had no green screen experience, and I hadn't read The Wretched. I went into the game without knowing anything about the prompts other than it was probably based on Alien and other space horror. But I felt confident in doing it because I knew that I could trust Chris Bissett, the author of The Wretched, to have great prompts. I just knew I could trust them. And then I knew enough about space horror that I felt confident enough that I could rely on myself to come up with interesting responses to their questions in the game. And then I also knew the system would enable me to allow a one-episode situation where I wouldn't have to worry about creating a series. It would end, and I was confident enough in myself, too, to be able to provide an ending that kind of felt okay, even though it's like a randomly generated ending, basically. If you haven't played The Wretched, it's played with a Jenga tower, or if you're not familiar with it, and when the Jenga tower falls, or you draw 3 kings, or something else happens, you die, usually, in those games. So that's what happened, is I ended up drawing 4 kings, and I streamed it live. So it was just, I think I'd seen a couple TikToks at this point that were like about, hey, if you want a green screen in your video, go to Dollar Tree and buy green tablecloths. And so Brian and Elliot can see the room I'm in right now. I hung a tablecloth on this door and opened it, and I hung a tablecloth on the wall behind me, and that was my green screen. And I think I also set up some poster boards that were green. And so this whole room just became like green in Dollar Tree stuff. And I just was like, all right, I think I can do this. And I haven't done it again, though, because it was so much work. I did do a stream of Galatea by Kaya. SJ Kaya, and it's an amazing game. I haven't promoted that stream at all. I think I did great, but my costume came over very poorly in the video. I think the lighting is just really bad, so I hate how I look in it. So audio only, just listen to it. But it's a great game, and I think I did a great job in that one as well. But basically, it was like, I had a vision. I knew I could make it work because I knew the setting was so specific. I knew I could figure out visuals pretty easily, and I knew it could be contained within a couple hours. I knew enough answers to questions that I could build it out from there. Whereas I feel like a lot of solo games, I don't know the answers to those questions, so it's harder to create that experience without spoiling yourself on what's there. And then I feel like, not that it's inauthentic, I just feel like my response to it wouldn't be as authentic as I was going into The Wretched. I think that's why it's so good, though, because I did go into it without knowing much about it.
In a homemade VFX room, essentially.
Yeah.
Covering
it was
making
so
all the
hot,
surfaces
too.
green.
I did that in the middle of the summer, and we were in the second floor of an apartment. And I was like, all the green screen, we had to turn off the AC because the vent is right behind me, and it was blowing the green screen. I was committed to the art, though.
So you were experiencing like real abject horror.
Yeah.
That I'm sure helped.
I was wearing a whole bodysuit, too, a whole space suit.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I was committed to the bit. No, I always go hard. Always 110%.
Elliot's heard this story a million times, but there's a cafe in the West Village that I like to work at, and above the bathroom there's a sign that I absolutely love that says, they attribute the quote to Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know if it actually is, but it says, "Go look a fool, 'tis the secret of a wise man." And I love how often it is true that, like, the projects you go into with the most ignorance and naivete and, like, I'm gonna make it work no matter what, are often the ones that, that fuck it, whatever happens is gonna happen.
That's my secret
the ones
to
that
success.
end up working. Yeah, you just gotta say, hey, before every project, just, fuck it. Go.
Yeah, there's an arrival point. It's something my brother and I have always said, and I think he probably said it first, is like, I've arrived at fuck it on this thing. It's like, I was really worried about it, and now I've arrived at fuck it.
I love that. I don't think I've ever said that, but I've had that moment.
You felt it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a station that you get off at a certain point. I also like, Brian, you saying that Elliot has heard this story a lot. Like, I don't hear it when we're recording, so that at this point, consistent listeners have also heard it a lot.
That's true. I think the past like 3 or 4 episodes that we've recorded, I've said this same thing.
Yeah. I love it. You're consistent, if nothing else.
Yeah, I like, you know what I like? I like becoming a regular at a place where like you go in. I remember when I first moved to New York, there was a pizza place or like a chicken stand, and all of our roommates would go because we were flat broke, and you could get a chicken sandwich for $1.50. It was just a Tyson chicken patty with honey mustard on it. And after a certain point, we'd go in and just hold up a number of fingers, and the guy would like nod, and we'd receive that many chicken fingers. Like no words were spoken. We would go in, put up 3 fingers, he would nod, and 3 minutes later, we'd give him $6.50 or whatever.
And that's New York, baby.
I'm nothing if not consistent.
So, speaking of the Wretched and Alone SRD, I'm gonna kick us back over to Carved by the Garden for a question that I've been wanting to ask. Sort of when looking at your year, which has been, I think, if you'll let me say, a very successful, very cool year from Tangled Blessings to Carved by the Garden. And I'm curious about, with making Carved by the Garden, your decision to use Kickstarter. Obviously, you used crowdfunder for Tangled Blessings, and like, why was Kickstarter the right way to crowdfund Carved by the Garden for you?
Yeah, so there are a couple of reasons. One, I busted my ass marketing Tangled Blessings. I burned out hard. I was on every app every day, like through January and February, messaging people, posting, writing emails, creating graphics, because I was the only person on the project aside from my editor and my photographer, and obviously like the playtesters. But otherwise, like, it was just me. So I was also doing all the art and all the social media presence, and it was just a lot. And it was extremely successful, but I felt like I had to fight for every single dollar. One, I had to convince people that you could trust crowdfunder because no one knew what it was. And that was a hill, like climbing. That was a big hill to climb. I didn't think hard enough about, like, before it started, I didn't reach out to enough people about trades in terms of like, I'll promote your project if you promote mine or anything like that. I promoted a couple just to be nice. Like, I might have promoted Project Echo. I don't remember.
I think we did it, but I don't think either of us knew
neither one of us
quite that was an
other.
existing system of things to do. I definitely didn't going into Zine Month. I was like, oh, people actually just straight up talk to each other and say, let's cross promote. It's not just this like dance.
Yeah, I just did it because I was like, oh, I like this person's project. They are also funding. Go give them money, please. But I didn't like coordinate anything. So, and I do work in marketing by day. So I was also doing this in my day job. So it was just so much, and it was a lot. And there were a lot of great tools on crowdfunder that I actually ended up missing when I moved to Kickstarter. But I wanted to try Kickstarter because a lot of people will say, if you have an interesting enough project on Kickstarter, you don't really have to market it. It'll do its thing. And I hate to say it, but the machine works. I barely talked about Carved by the Garden because I was so burned out. And it funded a little bit more than Tangled Blessings, and I was doing 2 interviews a week when Tangled Blessings was fun. And they funded for the same amount of days. They were both crowdfunding the same amount of days. And unfortunately, Kickstarter just has that built-in audience. So if you don't have the energy to do all the marketing or the time, and you can be on Kickstarter, it was a lot easier. It was easier to just be like, go do your thing, Carved, and then I came back, and it was good to go. That's really what it was. I was tired, but I wanted my game to print. So
totally makes sense. And I mean, and you can, as somebody who used crowdfunder in February as well, you get that feeling when you watch Kickstarter projects. You're like, it seems like that's not and again, I don't want to diminish the work of anybody who runs a Kickstarter, because I do think that like any crowdfunding is an inordinate amount of work.
Yeah.
But it was easy, especially this past February, to be experimenting with crowdfunder and watching people like shoot up on these Kickstarters. There is that the machine works, like you said, and it's got this innate discoverability built into it. It's a very clean app that people know how to use. They know they can trust it, and crowdfunder might build that level of trust. I know that. Yeah, I went on the platform recently, and it's changed a lot, the user interface, since I used it back in February. So maybe they're making steps, but no, I totally hear you, and I think that that's like a super valid reason.
There is also a little bit of a problem with crowdfunder that I'm leery of, and that is that it uses PayPal directly to you. So it connects to, like, your account connects to mine. There is no middleman, which at first I was like, that's great. But also there's like a privacy issue in there. Also, and I don't know how many people are aware of this, PayPal has a pretty strict 30-day pre-order policy. So if somebody purchases something from you through PayPal and you don't deliver it within 30 days, PayPal is likely to refund that money. It did not happen to me, but I have heard they've started getting harder on that policy. So that's something that I was also aware of. Even BackerKit reached out to me because I put Carved by the Garden up for pre-order on BackerKit, and I was like, oh, I'll activate PayPal, because I was just in the flow of things and I forgot. And they're like, are you planning on fulfilling pre-orders within 30 days? Because if not, you might have a problem with PayPal. So it's also that aspect, is there's nothing built in to protect creators on crowdfunder, at least when I used it. So those were some of the things I just was like, I'm a little leery of this. I think it was great for Zine Month, but also I really wanted to also know what the Kickstarter experience was. And because I just feel like it's kind of a rite of passage. I just feel like so many people, when you go through Kickstarter, there's a lot you learn, and you can take that knowledge to other platforms and whatnot. But I wanted that rite of passage at least.
I think those are good, very practical watch-outs for people as well. I didn't know that, having used crowdfunders, and didn't luckily experience any issues in that way either.
Yeah, I didn't either. And technically, they're not buying anything from you, but you have to argue with PayPal about that if it ever does become an issue, and who knows who PayPal will side with. So.
And you mentioned that there were some tools on crowdfunder that you missed going to Kickstarter. What was positive about crowdfunder?
Scheduling updates. You can't schedule updates on Kickstarter. So one of my favorite things to do on crowdfunder was the night before, because I work during the day, I would write up my little update, I would upload my images, and I would schedule it to go out at like 7:30 in the morning. Not on Kickstarter. You have to either have it saved somewhere else, but then you still have to upload all your images separately. There's no scheduling feature, and that was
no like draft post either.
There's no I think there might have been a draft, maybe, but it wasn't obvious, and I was
sure.
So it was better to there was no like save as draft. I didn't see it. It wasn't as clear cut as crowdfunders, at least. I just really loved being able to schedule and just go to bed. I couldn't believe how much I missed it.
I'll add to this sort of thought personally of, I found address collection, and especially like address change, to be, it's so ubiquitous with BackerKit, and then BackerKit doesn't integrate with crowdfunder, or at least didn't back in February. And that process gave me a lot of stress until packages were out the door and headed to people. And I still have a little stress about it, because we have some arriving. Hopefully by the time this airs, everything's arrived. But yeah, the address updatability of BackerKit and Kickstarter is one of its like real strong fulfillment aspects, that partnership.
That was another thing I wanted. I also had a little bit of issues with collecting addresses and fulfillment in general. A lot of that, unfortunately, was because of the way crowdfunder collects that information. And I knew if I went through Kickstarter, I could for sure use BackerKit and at least get a sense of how that process worked. And having their support in just building the survey was amazing. It's nice to have, I think I had like 3 people go over my BackerKit survey at BackerKit. And I think I only had to pay, keep in mind, I raised $13,000. I had to give them $200 of that, which isn't much. And then they also collected some on the top of what I've raised since then, which for me, the peace of mind is worth it because it was a lot to do all of that by myself like I said, I burned out really hard with everything. So it was a lot. It was very nice to have that oversight and to have them go in and be like, hey, this question is kind of worded confusingly, so we think it should be this way. We went ahead and updated it, but if you want to take it back, that's totally fine. Here's what you originally had. Just wanted you to be aware. And like them going through and making sure and like, it was really, really nice to have that. Sorry to go on a tangent about that.
No, not at all.
We very recently talked to Jay Stroutman, your friend and ours.
Yes.
And
Shout out to Jay.
Shout out Jay. Shout out Planet
Jay
Arcana.
also helped with the sticker game. So.
Oh, hell yeah. I didn't know that.
Well, I had a ton of audio questions. I had no idea what I was doing audio-wise, so I was like, Jay, if you have time, I've got questions. And Jay was just so generous. Jay would hop on a Discord call with me and help talk me through like stuff in Cakewalk and help me understand all the EQs and all the finagling things that you do in that, and would also listen to some of my audio and give pointers. So shout out to Jay.
Love Jay.
Just another reason to love Jay Stroutman. But we recently had them on, and they mentioned a conversation that the two of you had some time ago that I wanted to ask you about. And it was, they were playing a game of Monster Hearts and remarked on, I believe on your Discord, that it could be played like, oh, wouldn't it be fun if this was played GM-less? And they said that your answer was, all games could be played GM-less if you trust your group enough. Mm-hmm. And
that was my answer, and I still stand by that.
I really love that sentiment, and I kind of just want to, I want to hear more about that, because I think that sentiment is something that we've been dancing around a lot in kind of our own internal conversations and on this podcast, and you said it so succinctly and perfectly. Like, that was the answer that we were looking for.
Yeah. So I just think a lot about growing up as a child. No one had a GM, but we all were playing role-playing games, right? And you would all take turns deciding where the narrative would go. Maybe it wasn't structured in the sense of let's roll a dice and see who decides this next thing. But we were all asking each other questions like, are you going to be the prince? Are you going to be the dragon? Are you going to be the mom, the evil stepmother? Okay. And it's like there was this, and I just vividly recall these memories of working together to create these stories. And so then when I started playing Dungeons & Dragons, which was my introduction to tabletop RPGs, it was like, there's this GM. But when I was reading the DM's guide, there is a section in there that's like, you can take turns being the GM. You can either roll a die to decide when somebody takes over the narrative, or you can just take turns and tell the same story. And so that always stuck in my brain. And then I wrote a GM-less game, and it's where everybody just, basically you all ask each other questions as you play, and there's a mechanic, it's called Clean Spirit, and it's where you take tokens and you can spend the tokens to ask each other questions, but the tokens motivate you to ask each other questions, which helps build the world and build the narrative and build the story, so. But I understand that not everybody has that internal structure. A lot of people are just used to having the story be told to them and then reacting to it. So that's where if you trust your friends, and trust is maybe not the correct word, but if you are all in that same headspace of being ready to create and tell a story, and you trust each other in the sense of sharing, which I know can be difficult for some people. Some people really just want to be part. They don't want to invent, which is totally fine. But I think
lots of ways to participate.
Yeah, but I think if you have the right group, was really the word I was going for. If you have the right group and you all are in the same headspace, and it's a session zero question, right? Do we all want to be participatory in this, or do we just want to have a couple people be in charge of what's going on? You can have a GM-less game in terms of everybody's the GM in the sense, but I could ramble. Sorry.
No, honestly, I feel like we have been rambling around this idea, and I liked hearing such a tip of the sword answer to what we had been rambling about, because I really like it. I feel like once I discovered GM-less games, like playing my first game of Wanderhome, that so greatly influenced every other game I've run, even when I'm a more traditional.
Wanderhome broke my brain open. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wanderhome slaps, even though we played it without any of the mechanics.
Reading it is an experience by itself, though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Systems of Relation. Remember our Uzeba's conversation with Jay?
Systems
Brian?
of Relation.
Oh, it's not out in the world yet. It will be out when this comes out. People can go listen to our conversation with Jay where we nerd out a little bit about Systems of Relation.
That sounds great.
So, Cassie, you've made very cool solo games. You've made a GM-less game. You have made an audio-forward game. You're always doing very cool, interesting things, and you're giving it your all. Do you have any idea of what's kind of next? Like where you want to experiment next, where you want to lean into in terms of design, or what's kind of what's on the docket for you in the near future?
Give us a sneak peek.
I'm really, really getting into figuring out the best way to optimize rest and how to just come out of that completely rejuvenated. I've only been in tabletop RPGs, so on my first project, which was a 5e thing, was like a complete accident. I released that in November 2021. And it was like, I'm going to do this thing, and it'll be fun. And I gave it away for free for 3 months, and then people were bullying me to charge for it. So I finally did.
Good on them.
And then they bullied me to start a Patreon. And then they bullied me to, they didn't bully me to release my next game. I just did that because I needed to. And then they bullied me to rest, but then I made the sticker game. And then they bullied me to rest, and then I made Tangled Blessings. And then they bullied me to rest, and I made Carved by the Garden. So it's been a long journey for me to decide.
I got to get those kind of bullies in my life.
Yeah, they're not doing a good job. They're not bullying hard enough.
You're bullying your bullies on our podcast? Wild that you're coming for them like this.
So I really do need to take a break. So I'm trying not to set myself up for too much. I'm trying not to think hard about what I want to do next, where I want to explore next. Or what I want to quote unquote monetize next, because that's where everything ends up going these days. But I do have another solo game that I've been working on roughly 2 years that has its own system. I'm completely scrapping what I have. The system I'm not scrapping. The system is beautiful, and I can't wait for people to see it. But I am scrapping what I've written for the game, so I'm going to be redoing that. Just writing my Anamnesis game, and then writing Carved by the Garden, and playtesting both of those and getting playtest feedback has really helped me fine-tune what I believe will be really good. So it's just taking that in, and that'll come out at some point. But other than that, it is rest. I've really gotta chill.
Yeah.
That is the healthiest answer we've ever had on this podcast.
I think that is an extremely healthy answer. And my unhealthy brain, when you said I'm figuring out how to optimize rest, I was like, oh, a game about optimizing rest? Like, what would that look like? Did you mean rest as a mechanic? I'd literally, my brain was trying to figure out what game you could be talking about.
Interesting.
Yeah. I was like, a long rest supplement? Yeah. Very healthy answer. I hope you figure it out. And if you find the secret, let me know.
I'll tell you at PAX. Because November is supposed to be my rest month, but we'll see.
I love that Elliot was so close to saying, if you find the secret, be sure to monetize it.
That too. Although people have tried with that.
I think that's just a spa, right?
I think it's just money. Yeah. I think it's just having money is how you optimize rest.
I would love to optimize my rest. You know what I mean? Jeez. Cassi, thank you so much for being on the show. We got one more question we'd like to close out with, and that is, what do you bring into the table? So what is a person, a game, a show, a resource, really anything in your world that you would put on the table and recommend to the space right now, whether it's TTRPG related or not?
I just read a game called The Last Flight of the Pandora. I picked it up at Gen Con. It is by Two Pancakes, and it is a great zine. I'm so impressed with this game. You can also pick it up on itch.io. It is a single session game, which is what I've been searching for. Also check out Hunt by Spencer Campbell or Gila RPGs, also a single session game. I've been looking for more single session games because I get really bored of running the same system over and over. And I love games where the ending mechanic is sort of built in. I touched on that a little bit with The Wretched. And so Last Flight of the Pandora is a game that takes place on a spaceship. It is a group game. It does require a GM, but almost no prep because you find out what the game is, what the problem is, and what the triggers are for each act. It has all these different scenarios. It blew my mind. It is so incredible. There's so much playability in this game. They did a great job with the art. The mechanics are so easy. The pick up and play is so fast. I am so impressed by it, and I haven't seen anybody talk about it. So check out Last Flight of the Pandora.
And we'll be sure to put that link in our show notes so everyone here can go check it out, along with Hunt by Spencer Campbell and Gila RPGs and everything else we've talked about in this show, because we want you guys to find it.
If you want a solo RPG, check out Rune by Gila RPGs. Also very good. Okay, sorry.
Hell yeah.
We talked about so many solo RPGs, I felt like I had to give Rune a plug. It's so good.
Honestly, I read Elliot had been like talking about Nova and the Lumen system for a while, and I'd just been kind of putting it off. And then finally, he just gave me Nova to read, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing!" And then I picked up Hunt and Gen Con. I was like, "Oh, I just love Spencer Campbell." Is what it turns out. I just
it's a short path
Spencer
to.
Campbell.
Oh, okay. Now I'm a fan of your work forever. Okay, cool.
It's excellent, Spencer. We love you. Cassie, thank you so much for coming to the table.
Thanks so much.
You want to tell people where they can find you online if they're looking for you?
Sure. You can visit www.cassimothwin.com, where you will find my projects, as well as links to probably my socials or some other thing that I'm up to. I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as Instagram, the Blue Sky, and Tumblr, and Facebook. But join my mailing list, because it's small and I need more people on it. So cheers.
And if you want more gaming content from us, you should check out the 20-Sided newsletter or head on over to the Many-Sided Media Discord, where we're going to be talking about all of our conversations from Talk at the Table, as well as all of our seasons of My First Dungeon. Those are both linked below in the show notes. Rate, review, and follow wherever you get your podcast, because it really helps us out, and it just makes us feel all warm and good inside. And last but not least, that is what the table is talking about. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're looking for more great gaming content from everyone here at Many-Sided Media, you should consider subscribing to the 20-Sided newsletter. It's a free, bi-monthly newsletter for people who love games, make games, and just love making games. To subscribe, just go to 20sidednewsletter.substack.com or follow the link in the show notes.